Forged from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons. Hello and welcome to the channel. As it says there on the banner, please don't forget to like, comment on and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and make sure you hit the bell icon for alerts and new content. As always, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. We're in here, we haven't done one of these for a little while, the latest installment of Academy Talk, and we have got drafted in Forged from Iron's very own Academy correspondent, my younger brother, Mr. Ben Gates. How are you, sir?
Very good, Rob. Very good.
Good to hear.
Obviously, had a little bit of a sore head this morning after a few pints of Guinness with your good self yesterday. So yeah, that was a great crack.
It was a good. We was in a little bar just near the Old Street roundabout, wasn't we? A little Irish bar called Gibney's, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Plenty of Guinness, plenty of green floating around. A few young ladies who were very pleasing on the eye, it has to be said. But of course, being a married man, I can't do anything more than that. So,
well, I would say it is actually just near Old Street roundabout. It's actually Richard Kerrigan, the chef. He's quite a well-known Irish chef. He opened a restaurant called Daffodil Mulligan's, and then there's the bar downstairs, which is Gibney's. But yeah, had a great day. Not too many winners on the horses, unfortunately, but we give it a good crack. And I got to be honest, I think that was the first time I've ever had Irish whiskey, and I had a fair few of those to warm the cockles as well. So yeah, it's been a relaxing day. Let's just say that. Fair
enough. Right, so we're obviously here to discuss the matters of the academy grade teams. I mean, a number of the players, as we record this, it's a couple of days after the second leg of the last 16 in the Conference League, when there was an opportunity for some of these players to step onto the London Stadium pitch and sort of showcase their talents. But obviously you've been keeping a very keen eye on both the under-18s and the under-21s in your capacity as the Forged from Iron Academy correspondent. How do you see that the under-18s and the under-21s have sort of are progressing, or not, as the case may be, in your opinion?
Well, no, I mean, Rob, if it's all right with you, actually tonight is probably mainly focused on the under-18s, and then we can, maybe look at the under-21s in another session. But I mean, from my point of view, the last one of these I'd done, I think, was actually probably January. So there's quite a few games to update on. But which we can go into the detail of. But in summary, the under-18s were flying in January, and they had a little blip where they lost a couple of games. I mean, my last session, they'd actually won every game when I sat down last. So it was unlikely that they was going to continue that ratio. And they did lose a couple at the beginning of the year. But then since then, their form has been unbelievable and actually leaves them top of the league, 15 points clear. And to the extent that, they only need one more point to win the league. And, and I think they've got, I don't know how many games they've got left, but they could win the league with a lot of games to spare.
I think there's 4 games left, if my maths is correct, because there's 12 teams in that division. So you play each other home and away. So that's 22 matches.
Yeah.
So I think what I worked out is I think the only team that could possibly overhaul them is Fulham, but they would need to win every game and we'd need to lose every game, I believe.
Yeah. So I think that, I mean, without being presumptuous, you'd like to think the league's in the bag, and we can put on a good performance. I think we've got we had West Brom, we've got Brighton next week at home, who you'd like to think, bearing in mind we've got double the amount of points that Brighton have got, that we can go out, put them to bed. And what's interesting, just looking at that stat, Rob, we haven't even drawn a game this season. So we had the two losses in January, which I'll come on to a little bit of detail on, because I've listed out the games since my last catch up. But we ain't even drawn. We're literally winning every game. And what's even better is that we're in the semi-final of the FA Youth Cup, because I just think it's interesting. In youth football, the winning of it actually feels like the FA Youth Cup is actually bigger than the league. You seem to remember the FA Youth Cup wins more than the league wins, and I just think if we can really, I think the league's in the bag, and we got a 1 in 4 shot of winning the FA Cup. Who we're actually playing Southampton at home in the next leg, which is in a couple of weeks, which is at the London Stadium, and it's actually our first home game of the whole tournament. All the games we've had so far have been away, and usually, even if it had been at home, we'd have been playing at Rush Green, our training ground. But obviously, with it being the semi against Southampton, who are actually one of the teams that have beaten us this season, so we kind of owe them one. Be a tough game, and then if we beat them, it's Arsenal, Man City in the final waiting for us. Which, if people don't actually know, that the Premier League at under 18 level is regional, so we're not playing the likes of Man United, Man City, Liverpool, because we're playing the southern teams. But Man City are, from what I can gather, they're romping the northern division. So that'll be, if we do get them in the final, that will really be the two by far best youth teams in the country, going head to head, and hopefully we can beat them. So, there's a real possibility that this little batch of under 18s could do the double this year. And as a result, I'll be at the London Stadium cheering them on for that semi-final.
You already got your tickets, have you?
I haven't booked the tickets just yet. I mean, you could rock up on the day and walk in. I think so. Yeah, it's a £5 for season ticket holders. So, but I would like to think that there'll be a good turnout. West Ham fans have always liked and supported the youth teams, and I would like to think they could get a good 20,000-30,000 there if they market it in the right way.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I remember and obviously it was a final, not a semi-final, but I remember the FA Youth Cup final second leg at Upton Park, against Coventry City, and it was absolutely unbelievable, the support that the lads got that night. And if we could get any sort of decent level of support in that, that these lads, by and large, an awful lot of them have probably never played in front of really big crowds before, so this would be a really big sort of moment for them in their careers.
Yeah. And I think it'd be great if we can get a good turnout for the semi, because and to give these guys a pat on the back for their, no doubt the league will be sewn up by then. So a pat on the back for doing so well in the league.
For people that might be watching this, that might be familiar with names like Divine Mubama and Oliver Scholes, those players aside, are there any players from the under-18s that you're looking at and thinking have a reasonable shot of making it as a sort of like at a decent level of football, if not at West Ham itself?
Absolutely, mate. And I think what is really exciting is, I think there's 5 or 6, maybe even more, that have got a chance of making it in our team very soon as well. You know what I mean? I think it's difficult to judge when they're playing youth football, but when you're watching these guys, some of the things that they're doing, you're thinking, well, if you can do that, you can do that on the pitch. If you can do that on the pitch to an 18-year-old, you can do it in senior football, because they're just really skillful, So, I'm talking about the under-18s. Well, Mubama, who is probably he's hardly played for the under-18s. He's mainly been playing for the 21s. So you think we're top of the league, and actually we probably ain't got our best player because he's playing in the level above. So that's what's really good. There's so obviously Mubama, brilliant that he came on and scored, because that goal he had taken off him in the Conference League was probably, if you're doing it totally by the book, it probably was just going wide. But it was just so unfortunate that you got this young 17, 18-year-old lad and they've taken it off him. But, he come on, and you can tell when he's come on for the first team, he's chasing down every ball. He's chasing the guy. He really wants to make it an effort. And from what I've seen, the goal that he scored is quite indicative of him as a player. He's a real goal poacher. I was just having a look. He's actually got, for all age groups. So he has played a handful of games for the under-18s, but mainly the 21s and the first team. He's got 22 goals in 29 appearances, and that includes substitute appearances for the first team. I think he got them for 5 minutes. Well, and he's got 22 and 29, and I think he's got a chance. Because he's obviously in Moyes' mindset, because Moyes brought him on a couple of times, and I think physically he looks like he's quite a size for his age. So he doesn't look weak. He's quick, so he has got some of the attributes, and he's in the England squad at youth level, so he is been ranked internationally as well. So I really do think that, unfortunately, I think Antonio's best is past him. And I think we've seen that for the last year. He's not really scored much, albeit he got nicked a couple in the Europa Conference. I think next season, Antonio is being phased out and Mubama's being phased in. And that's we don't need to go and pay millions for a striker, because I think we've got a real good one on our hands. So that's Mubama. So just to answer your question, Rob, who are the others? So it's really interesting, because from what I've seen, you've got the likes of Mubama and Scholes, who have been promoted to the first team. I would say, I mean, even though they're really talented players, they're not there's two in my mind, I think have got a bigger chance than them. Yeah. And I would say number one is George Earthy, who I've watched a lot. And look, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as this player, but when I've watched George Earthy, he looks like Luka Modric. Do you know what I mean? He's
Stylistically.
stylistically, although I think at the minute Earthy's playing maybe a little bit further forward than Modric does. Obviously, Modric dictates play from central midfield, whereas I think Earthy is playing like behind the front man. But he just looks so classy and silky, and he's got quick turn of pace. He can burst past people. He's got left foot and right foot to the extent that I'm not sure if he's right or left footed. Because when I've seen him, he's banging in goals with left and right. And I'm thinking, well, I don't actually know if he's left or right footed. But he looks a
Quality.
real talent. He looks a real talent. Uh, so I've got high hopes for him. The only thing that might hold him back is he's quite a small lad. You haven't got to be, you know, you haven't got to be big to make it as a pro footballer, but it's a little bit more difficult if you're 5'7". Do you know what I mean?
Unless he is as good as Luka Modric. I mean,
Exactly.
as you say, you're not saying he is. Just in case anybody sort of wants to sort of,
No,
are you
he's
saying
better.
he's as good as Luka Modric? But yeah, exactly. There you go. But I mean, you mentioned he's stylistically very similar to Luka Modric. Well, Luka Modric isn't particularly,
No, exactly.
physically imposing. He's quite diminutive, and
And
look at what he's achieved in the game.
and what he's still achieving. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's even at the age he's at. I don't know how old Modric is, but mid 30s,
37, I think.
mate. He's dominating games still. You know. And so I think George Earthy has got a real good chance of making it at West Ham. Along with like Mubama and Scholes that you've mentioned. So, and the other one that looks a real talent is Lewis Orford. So Lewis Orford is a central midfielder, and do you know what? Because I was thinking, yeah, Earthy's like Modric. I was thinking, who does Orford remind me of? And obviously, he plays central midfield. And so the easy comparison is Declan Rice. But actually, I was thinking, no, he's not. He doesn't remind me of Rice because he looks like he's more of an attacking central midfielder, getting assists and goals. And and then it dawned. I had the eureka moment, and I thought, well, that's who he looks like. It's Kevin De Bruyne. He he
Okay.
he looks to me a miniature Kevin De Bruyne. He's passing his goal. What I can come on to is the amount of goals we're scoring at the under 18 level. And the amount of players that have scored like 10 goals is like a lot. I think Orford's got 8 or 9 goals and like 7 assists. Earthy's got like 7 goals, 10 assists. Do you know what I mean? A lot of these attacking players have got real good output, and Orford he plays for like England under 18s, and he's what is really impressive from my point of view is he's playing in a probably one of the most important position on the pitch in the middle of the park. So he's playing for the under 18s, has pretty much played every game, and he's only just turned 17. You know what I mean? And he's, I think physically he's looking like he's developing because I think when I first watched, he's actually looking a bit of a unit now. I think he's bulking up a little bit. So I actually, I think I've interacted a little bit on Twitter with his dad.
Okay.
When I've posted things about the West Ham youth team and seen this guy, and he's posted back, and I think what's really interesting is the two lads I've just mentioned. I think George, definitely Lewis Orford, but I think Earthy as well. They've been with the club since they were like 5, 6 years old.
Yeah.
Their parents are West Ham fans. Do you know what I mean? Now you're willing them to just make it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I think, not that I want to talk about this too much, but if Rice leaves, which is probably going to happen sooner rather than later, then I think, you know, you've got Freddie Potts who come on. Yeah, you've got the likes of Lewis Orford. Look, we would go and buy players, but I think, and Mark, saying that Mark Noble said, which he's probably right, is that we're not going to go and spend 100 million on a player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we've spent big money on, say, Paqueta, but you know, the likes of us going out into transfer market and buying players for 100 mil, it's not going to happen. So we need to bring these talented players through, and I think we've got a conveyor belt there with Earthy and Orford at the top of the tree, and obviously Skulls and Mabama, who are probably a little bit ahead of them in Moyes' thinking, plus Freddie Potts, like I say, and that there's 5 players off the bat. So I think, yeah, some really exciting talent there. And actually, I haven't even mentioned Callum Marshall, who quite frankly, he's the top scorer in the under-18 league. He's got 13 in 13, and I think, from what I can gather, I think if you was looking at pure talent, footballing talent, I would say that Marshall is better than Mubama. But
Okay.
but I think what Mubama might have slightly over Marshall at the minute is just the physical attributes and strength to play against men. Whereas I think Marshall probably needs to get a bit stronger, albeit he's looked strong, he's quick. So it's going to be a really exciting year or two for these players. See how they develop. So, Rob, I'll tell you what I'll quickly go on to, if you don't mind,
Of course.
is I'll just do a quick recap of the games that we've played since the last update I done.
Please
So
do.
I think this is sort of the turn of the year. We had Palace. We beat them 4-0. And the scorers were Skulls, Earthy, Marshall, and Codua. With him, and this what you'll appreciate when I go down this list. We have got some firepower, and we are putting teams to the sword. So we've done Palace 4-0. We then beat Villa 5-2. Codua, who's a good striker, he got a couple. Marshall, Patrick Kelly, and there's a lad called Favour for Wanmi.
Yep.
We then done Burnley 1-0 in the FA Cup. George Earthy scored then. And then this is where we had our little blip. We lost 2-1 to Southampton. But I think what's worth noting is that I think, obviously, it's a balancing act in youth football, is that it's all about the players' development. And I
Yeah.
think where we had such a big lead in the league, the Southampton game, when you actually look at the team sheet, they actually started a lot of the under-16 players. And I think where it was just after the FA Cup win against Burnley, so he put in a few under-16s, and our first choice midfield 3, none of them were even in the squad. So
Okay.
we'd mixed the squad up, and that probably had an impact on the result. We then we lost 2-1. We then lost 3-1 to Chelsea. So that was, from winning every game, we then lost 2 on the spin. And you probably thought, oh, could we be getting, squeaky bum time? Are we going to fall down? But no, we didn't. We then had Stoke in the FA Cup. We put them to bed 4-1. We had Mubama scoring 2, Orford and Earthy scoring. So we then beat Norwich 6-0, which was a great result. Marshall, Fawammi, Orford, Jones, and Akpata getting the goals there. We then had, and this was a really tough game, actually. I think we might have been a bit lucky in the next game, which was Ipswich in the quarterfinals of the FA Youth Cup. which I think Ipswich played really, really well, and they went down to 10 men after about half an hour. But they really pushed us, and it was 2-2 after normal time, and we got a couple of goals in extra time to get the win. Kodua, Marshall, Mubama, and Battram getting the goals. And I just think, in this FA Youth Cup, the three strikers I've just mentioned there that scored in that game, you've got Mubama, Marshall, and Kodua. That those, I think, at this youth level, if going up against any team, they're gonna score goals. They're real free, deadly strikers. And then just to wrap up, we beat, a couple of days after that FA Cup win in extra time. 3 days later, we played Spurs. We beat them 3-1. Marshall getting 2, Rig getting the other one. And again, I think they brought a few of the under-16s into that game because it was so close to the FA Cup game. And we just keep winning. We're a winning machine at under 18 level. And then we beat Norwich 4-1 last week. Earthy getting another goal. Mubama, Casey, and Orford. I'm saying the same names over and over again, aren't I? You've got 5 names there, the 3 strikers plus Orford and Earthy, and they're just getting goals. It's raining goals, mate. And then today, West Brom beat them 2-0. Lewis Orford scored again. And Favour for Wanmi scored, and we went down to 10 men after about an hour. I was keeping an eye on the game, just on like the text update. Yep. You're thinking, that could be a dodgy last half hour, but we obviously just see the game out. So it's just such an exciting time that you've just got your fingers crossed, but that these guys, have got the right attitude and get the opportunity to showcase their ability, but which, Moyes has had a fair bit of stick, but actually, when you look at it, he has given a lot of young lads a chance, and he obviously did against Larnaca. He brought them in a little bit. He could probably do more, but actually, I think if these lads are good enough, which I actually think they will be, then they will force themselves into the team.
How important next season do you think it's going to be that we get the players that you're talking about out on loan? If they're not going to get an opportunity in the first team, how much of an importance in their development do you think it will be to get them out playing men's football at a League One level, Championship level, wherever it might be?
Yeah, I'd say it's important, mate. I think, it is quite a well-known trajectory to, developing players. So I would, you would like to think, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes in professional football, right? But I presume even at these lads' age, they've got an agent of some description. Do you know what I mean? But so I really think I would be astounded, right? And this is why I think the FA Cup win could be really important as well. You think, right? You've got a team that has romped the league. Let's just say we win the FA Cup, right? They've got to be in Moyes' mindset. But, if they're not quite ready, you would think there's going to be a queue of League One and Championship teams. Pretty much, I would think pretty much every single one. You know what I mean? Because you've got a crop of lads here that have proven themselves to be the best in the country, and they will go and do a job, like a real good job, at a lower league team. So I'd be pretty astounded if not, if they don't get the chance in the first team, then they'll all go out on loan, I'd imagine.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts before we knock it on the head, old son?
No, mate. Only to say that. Thanks for having me on. But
no, not at all.
I'm just and I think we both are, really passionate about West Ham's young players, and like I say, we've got some real talented lads in our youth setup. Really proud of them. They're going to win the league, and hopefully we can roar them on to an FA Cup win as well. So no, the future is good, and obviously I hope we stay up in the Premier League. But it's one of those that actually, God forbid we went down, right? I think a few of these players that helps them. Do you know what I mean? Because
Possibly, yeah.
it would be a case of, well, half the big earners, the top stars would go, and I think that these lads would be more likely to get an opportunity in the Championship. So if the worst come to the worst and we did go down, it wouldn't be a bad thing for a few of these lads.
Fair enough. Right, well, Ben, I'm going to say thanks very much for your time on this particular edition of Academy Talk. And for those of you that are still watching, as it says there, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and make sure you hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. As always, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. So we're just going to end it there with our usual Iron Supporting Food Bank promo. Please consider giving them your support, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Forged from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons.